2020. So today's title and focus is on the struggles that my ego still encounters, still bumps into as part of my awakening journey, especially during this time. So really going to be just sharing a lot of my own personal journey, kind of from my past, but also in present time, with that kind of oscillation roller coaster between getting over involved and then becoming disengaged, and where we're really trying to get to, which is, of course, the 0 point. This is a very volatile time, and I think it's really helpful for me to share in real time what comes up for me as being part of, this expansive multidimensional reality. I think most of us understand at this point that's not just a quick fix problem solver. It doesn't make everything go away. We don't go from incredible density in the descension cycle to, as I've been calling it for fun, Shangri-Lama, just total Eden overnight. And so, moving through that process is where everyone, myself included, is at. So welcome to the show. If you are new to Beyond Conscious Becoming Multidimensional, I'm your host, Asia Andromeda. I am the founder of a company called MultidimensionalU.com, which is a metaphysical coaching company, and it's also a hub for the build out of a new earth. And those two are directly linked because the metaphysical coaching helps a person go through their personal transformation, and that personal transformation is at the level of the plasmic field of consciousness, and that is the fabric of New Earth. So it is our own consciousness that is shifting reality on planet Earth. That's why, it's always so important to come back here. So this show exists to support humanity as it takes its next evolutionary leap into its next octave of human embodiment and a shift in consciousness. And I specifically focus on what I know best because it's been my direct experience, and that is reactivating your multidimensional self and then engaging in inner tech transfer from your many, many multidimensional aspects around the multiverse in various forms: geometry, light, sound, color. A lot of my aspects have form, but many of them do not. So that's the kind of just summary of what this show is about and what it was intended to do. I received a divine directive last year to get this up and running, just as a nice reference point for those of you who are stepping into this expansive remembering and could use a little company, right? So it's nice to see everyone here. Hey guys, hi Dana, hi Janice, hi Judy, hi Lauren, hi Lori, hey Andrew, nice to see you guys here. Okay, so before we dive into this subject and I share some personal stories, I just want to remind everyone that the Genesis Code mission is coming up soon. It's August 8th, the apex of the Lion's Gate. We were meant to be in physical in France doing that multidimensional mission work in person, but alas, coronavirus is impeding those plans. So we're going to do this remotely. The beautiful thing about multidimensional mission work, of course, is that we don't need to be in person to do it. We transcend linear space and time. I was just hoping to eat some really good French food this year. Alas, that will have to be next year. And then the other announcement is there is a YouTube membership that I kicked up a few weeks ago. So it's a great way to be able to support the channel, my work, and receive a very powerful monthly, I'm calling it monthly meds, meditation. I'm clearer than ever before that just what I was saying earlier, that the environment of our plasmic field of consciousness, our bioenergy field, is the foundation for New Earth. So if it's not clear and clean from distortion, and it's not operating in a higher set of vibrational coordinates, we can't bring heaven to earth. We can't shift things. We will just recreate the same holographic projection over and over and over again. So that's what that membership is about. And you can go to the YouTube channel. It's Multidimensional U, and look for the join button. All right, so let's get started. What are the struggles that my ego still bumps into? Are they varied? And they are vast. So again, let me just pull back and give context for why I'm even talking about this. So of course I pulled two cards for today. The volcano volatility, but it comes with a positive message of don't fear. all of this volatility, like that's like pulling apart everything that you thought created security in your world, right? Like the deconstruction phase of the awakening journey is ultimately being directed by our higher self collective. And then of course, but so what do we need to do? Like breathe. We need to breathe like never before. Everybody take a deep breath and exhale, right? Really, really important to use the breath. And in fact, the breath is what I use to exit my focus on this fractal and expand back into my multidimensional self. So I just want to give you that. The breath is your ally during these highly volatile times. So let me back up and just share that, y'all might not know, but I was a hardcore skeptic 12, 13 years ago. I was that annoying person that made fun of tarot cards and crystals. Says the woman wearing her Moldavite today. I had bought into the modern Cartesian worldview that what you see is what you get. And all this other stuff was not serious and was way off base. And why did I think that? Because I had been conditioned to think that. It wasn't based in my own research or direct experience or, following a line of questioning till its end. It was just based in conditioning, what we call programming, I guess, right? So as my awakening, I would say unfold, that's a nice term. It came flying at me with like a cosmic 2x4. It really unsettled me. So my ego had to go through all this undulation of, what? No. Wow, really? What? No, right? So this up and down roller coaster. And of course, in the early days of my awakening, I really didn't want to talk to anybody about it. I barely wanted to admit that I was having these experiences with interdimensional beings myself, let alone, share this with a broader world. I had a place in the small community I had lived in, and I was the founder of a nonprofit. I was the executive director of a nonprofit. I was kind of considered a community leader. And so it was like, I'm not about to tell people that I'm talking to my dead father. These other, ethereal beings are showing up. And then, of course, eventually the Sasquatch people and aliens, right? Now I'm like, whatever, talk to Bigfoot and aliens, get over it. This big, wide multiverse. But that was really intense to go through. And even still today, as I always channel, new information that often feels like it's not accepted in the main collective, narrative. It can rock my ego still a little bit, because fundamentally, I think we all want to belong. We all want to be loved and to be validated. And when the vast majority of humanity can't see what you can see yet, it puts you in a really interesting position for your ego to navigate. So I've got the Arcturians here kind of on standby today. And what they're showing me is that so much of what we have to go through on our own individual journey of awakening at the ego level is really designed to show us where we have a lot of programming left and limitation and fear, right? And the events that are unfolding on the planet right now, again, not necessarily unfolding, they feel like they're kind of, exploding, are designed by our higher self collective to start to show us where we have these biases and these limited beliefs and these blind spots and these fears. It all comes down to fear. Anger is fear, right? Anger reduces to fear. So, I still come into this place of, is that pushing the limits? And then too much for too many people. And then you get into, we still, as a human race, tend to run highly tribal. And I did some channeling on this back in the south of France that really helped me understand why this is, why we're kind of hardwired to be more tribal, end up getting into groupthink with maybe not the level of self-awareness we think we have, is because it's hardcore wired to our survival. Like, if you left a group, you literally were on your own and you didn't have access to the resources for fundamental survival that you would need. So it's pretty hardwired, and it takes a lot of conscious effort to start to pull out of, that base survival program of, if I go against the tribe, I will die. I guess is how I would just sum that up. So, my ego will still come into that feeling of to be so outer margin, right? Is like, it's isolating, it's lonely. People in my group this week are talking about this, experiencing those feelings of isolation that you have when you move beyond where the group experience is at, and you're beginning to have experience beyond that, especially the experience that says, I'm moving beyond good and bad, right and wrong, black and white. And there's this third way, there's this other transcendent way that, we get into the energetics of the 0 point, really, really powerful place to be. But there aren't too many people there yet, right? So it can feel like, we're out here all alone, or there's a very few. And so you go from being kind of excited once you have reactivated your multidimensional abilities into healing, into being able to communicate with advanced galactic civilizations off planet, et cetera, et cetera. You get really excited and kind of like, whoa, all the things we can do. It's kind of that over-involved stage, like maybe leaning past people's boundaries because you really want them to see what you can see and know what you know and do what you do. And we don't have to live like in these barbaric conditions, people, right? And then, these feelings of isolation will bump us back into feeling like, oh, what's the point? This is too advanced. It's too soon. It's the disconnect is too far. And so you go into disengagement, right? You can kind of disconnect. I guess a lot of, coping mechanism is that dissociation that everyone engages to in one extent or another to just deal with the density and trauma of the planet. So I've been riding those waves quite a bit lately. I've been going through my next massive up-leveling energetically. I can't tell you the details of what that means yet because it's all at the energetic level. I can just tell you that I've been having some really amazing experiences that tell me that whatever I'm bringing through is coming from a really high, we're talking like high 11th dimensional codes, and it doesn't necessarily translate into the humanoid form. So there's a lot of personality restructuring happening for starseed wayshowers right now. And it's bringing up all these same old patterns that maybe we thought we had dispensed with. Oh yeah, I got through that. It's like, nope, here comes a whole nother level of having to restructure your personality and your embodiment. And it surfaces kind of maybe that level you got comfortable in of that next level tribe, right? So I find that I'm often called to say things that may not be very popular, even within light working circles, especially around getting out of us and them narratives. And it, again, will just bring up the fear of, am I extraneous? Am I irrelevant? Is this just asking too much of people? Et cetera, right? So, back and forth between really excited to share, you get blowback both in the physical from other humans and then, of course, in the etheric and the astral. And then you start to wonder, wait a minute, is this, should I be doing any of this, right? And these are healthy lines of questions to go through. I think anytime we're in service, we need to really check ourselves, like, shouldn't be coming from savior syndrome or the martyr complex or self-sacrifice or anything like that. Those are actually old programs that we're here to dissolve. But, you can slip into those, right? So, the guru consciousness trap. They're all just these interesting little, we could call them consciousness traps or diversions, right? Interesting scenic diversions for our ego to take. I fairly early on stepped back from becoming a public channeler because I was very wary of developing any sort of like guru syndrome. I just didn't want to go into that with people. I didn't want a bunch of people projecting their, giving their power away to me when I use these abilities. And same with healing. I got really excited about healing initially, and then I realized that's not really what I'm on the planet to do, is to become the great healer who can just remove these issues for everyone. It's much more about helping people realize they can do this for themselves. This whole kind of oscillation, we go back and forth between overreaching and then disengagement. This is what the ego is doing. It's attached to us, and then it gets maybe burned Sorry for the interruption. I was just talking about pulling back and then everything goes down. Isn't that funny? So yeah, what I just want to say is absolutely, like, I keep showing up because that's my sole purpose here, and I will keep showing up. But I want everyone to know that I'm human too, and I go through the ego struggles just like you all do. And there are definitely times when I just want to disappear in a cabin in the woods, or, you know, like, beam me up and let's go back home to Andromeda Galaxy. And then, you know, I've let myself feel all that, and then I come up through the next wave and come back to 0 point and hold that. So, you know, what the Arcturians are telling me right now is that our human journey it's not separate from, you know, your multidimensional soul purpose work here. It's integral. That's what they're saying. And that totally makes sense. I mean, thank God I have this line of communication to help me understand our human journey and these oscillations that we're going through and how we decide to navigate them without collapsing into the black and white is integral to our service work on the planet. So if you're in the throes of the kind of the ups and the downs, like I am, I guess the takeaway message is good job. We're right where we're supposed to be. We're doing exactly what we're supposed to be doing. And there's, you know, we're in it and going up and down through it. But then there's also the witness and watching us go up and down through that. And as long as we're able to hold both, that beautiful paradox, then I think that really can help us do our service work and have a human journey at the same time, which is just not always that straightforward, is it? Yeah. Let me see what else wants to come up from my memory of going through this journey. I think the touchstone reference point, the inner reference point that most of us have, is a civilization that has put itself together in a way that is based much more in unity and connection and support and compassion, right? And understanding we're not separate from one another. We really want to support one another, and we can build an incredible planetary civilization based on that, right? And also not disconnected from our planetary consciousness and from all the other amazing conscious life that's here, right? From rock, mineral, animal. And that there's other interdimensional species here. And if we all worked harmoniously together, I mean, this is what the Sasquatch people are always talking to me about, is coming into harmony and balance. And that is possible. And so when that's our reference point internally, innately, that's kind of what we brought with us as our blueprint. The disparity between those internal codes, if you will, and then what we see in our reality around us can be very jarring at times. And it can make us lose our confidence in our inner vision, right? If you participated in the Friday Live meditation, that inner vision really got anchored in and integrated. But the human journey, because the collective around us is saying that's not possible, we can lose our confidence in ourselves and our own inner vision. And so that's the other big thing that my ego will still sometimes come up against is, who am I to bring this forward, et cetera, et cetera. And then, I just have to go back into all the guidance I've channeled for myself and others. It's like, who am I not to? If not me, then who? Who else is going to do this, right? Some of us have to step forward and say, there's a better way. There's a different way. And this goes into multidimensional activism, which sometimes I get pushback on that's bypassing. And I can easily see why people think that. But that's because if all you're seeing as your options for activism and action are physical, then anything besides that seems ineffective or irrelevant. And that's just based in not understanding the physics of it and how it works. So a huge piece of my work on the planet I've come to understand is to really help people move into multidimensional activism. And so, from the age of 15 was writing letters to heads of state overseas, asking them to free their political prisoners. I would participate in Amnesty International campaigns. I founded an Amnesty International chapter in my local high school. I was very active in college. I would attend the HEOP rallies in New York State to make sure that funding for higher educational opportunity programs for minority students would stay intact. You know, I was very active in that way, just environmentally, started a nonprofit, helped start a land trust, right, into my 20s. And then my awakening hit, and it started pulling me into this different octave of activism. And I realized, wow, wait a minute, we can get, you know, I worked as a facilitator between different interests on the national forests here in the United States, from loggers to environmentalists. And what I would do is get everybody in a room so we could find common ground. And then we created something new that came out of that was being pioneered elsewhere in the Northwest here, and it's a restoration economy. So maybe we're not going to log in the same way, but we can do forest restoration to mimic wildfire, because these forests are fire dependent, but you know, fire doesn't work so well when there's a lot of human population. And there was this whole new, not surprisingly, paradigm that grew out of that. And that's what I see we need to facilitate now, is getting out of the us and them and moving into this third way. And working multidimensionally helps to clear so much negative astral pollution, right? We have a lot of volatility, a lot of anger and fear and blaming and prejudice and all of this flying around in the field. And so if we can help clear the air, literally, right, at the quantum level, it gives ourselves and the rest of humanity a little more breathing space to be able to see more clearly and get out of maybe reptilian brain, fear-based, trauma-based, reactionary everything into, wait a minute, what is possible here? So yeah, I'm not saying that, you know, we're going to get to Shangri-La overnight, but the end vision on the touchstone we came with us is well worth the effort, whether the effort's in the physical or we're working at the quantum level. All of it is worth it. That's the conversation I have with myself. You know, it's like, you know, am I way off track here, or is this really possible? And I just keep coming back to, it's our own plasmic field of consciousness, our own thought stream and emotion stream that creates reality. So I think where my ego will sometimes hit a bump is it enough? Is it enough? Do we have enough? And that I have to have that conversation every day to basically kind of, you know, put my pants on one leg at a time and show up in service. It really is a conscious decision to show up in service every single day. There are weeks when it's easier, but I'm recognizing with you all right in this moment that it's a decision, a conscious decision I have to make every day to show up in multidimensional service to the planet and to do my own shadow work, right? And to look at what's coming up for me and to be with uncomfortable emotion. So there's a lot, what I'm being shown right now, and I'm sure many of you can relate to this, I certainly have gone through this myself, is there's a lot that was just kind of in the sediments underwater, and it's all being shaken up, and it's coming to the surface now for all of us to experience, feel, process, heal. And the energy intensity of that is high. So I'll circle back to the breath. Use your breath. I've begun getting massages weekly. My body's starting to hold some of this tension and showing me like, you need to move this through, right? Because the body's starting to hold on to all of this. So I like to say that being embodied on planet Earth as an awake light worker, starseed, wayshower, however, healer, whatever term you want to use, it's a lot like balancing on a ball, right? There's no like, I got there and I arrived and it's all golden. It's, whoa, that was beautiful. And oh shoot, I just got knocked off center again. And then I'm finding the 0 point again. And so it's that movement piece, right? So I hope this is helpful. I really just wanted to share all of this with you. I often don't talk about some of my own journey because frankly, I just don't want to burden everyone with that. But I think it's important that, I go through a lot of the same things you all go through. And I still show up, right? I think that's it. I follow other people who go through the same thing and they inspire me. A lot of my clients inspire me, how they really work through, some of the densest, most uncomfortable emotions that will come up in situations. And they'll really sit with it and move into it and lean into it and come out the other side, kind of just, whoa, transformed. Yeah. So thanks everyone for being here with me today. It is a little bit tiring. Yeah. Exhausting for sure. I passed out for 3 hours on Sunday as I underwent this massive, kind of energetic release and upgrade. And then I guess if you're kind of new to my channel and you'd like to know the kind of more of the details of my story, I do have an ebook called Mommy Got Her Magic, How Mommy Got Her Magic Back. You can just pick it up. It's on my about page on my website, multidimensionalu.com/about. I think it's towards the bottom. It's just a free ebook, and maybe hearing some of the details of how things unfolded for me might help you all. So much, I think, of what our egos need is just reassurance that we aren't crazy, that there is this much greater reality that exists. And just because everybody can't see it yet, doesn't mean it isn't real. My husband used the metaphor recently in a conversation with friends. We can't hear what dogs can hear, but when they seem to hear something, we trust that they're hearing it, right? And so I think we just need to afford some of our human population the same leeway in a way that I was not capable of doing 12 years ago when I myself was a skeptic. So I do understand that mindset as well. There's a lot of safety in a skeptic mindset. It keeps you safe. And so I don't fault it at all, right? Our psycho-spiritual selves just need the time they need to go through our own awakening journey at our pace. But it sure seems like the human collective has really kicked it up a notch and we've gone into an accelerated pace. So I think it's helpful for y'all just to have more context and share more context with everyone at whatever level they're ready for. So thank you everyone for everything that you do on the planet, all the, intense personal healing work you're going through yourselves, because like I said at the top of the show, that is the work. This is it. It's integral to our soul purpose work. All right. Well, thank you all. It's so lovely to see you all here. Thanks for showing up in the chat. It's kind of hard for me to read sometimes in real time, but I always go back and review later. So love you all. And the next show will be on the French Independence Day, Bastille Day, sovereignty. Woohoo! That is July 14th. All right. Love you all. Have a wonderful, magical, multidimensional week.